Welcome to Behind the Scene. I am your host, Hector Montalvo. Joining us here today at our MCTV studios, we're joined by Executive Floor Director for our show, Behind the Scenes, Mr. Jack Burke. Mr. Burke, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Hector. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming. Mr. Burke, you have taken the lead role to make sure that Methuen school websites are more open and transparent to the parents of Methuen students. Can you tell us why you took on this type of role?
Well, actually, the role is a little bit broader than that, Hector, in that I've evaluated both the city and the school websites in the city. And partly because the city websites keep posting a notice that they're winning awards from Common Cause. And so as I looked further and further into what the criteria is, I realized that there is more of a national criteria than the local one used by Common Cause. And so I decided that I was going to get involved and try and bring Methuen's websites up to national standards.
Now, you say Common Cause. What is Common Cause?
Well, Common Cause is a nonprofit government watchdog group that's throughout the entire country, but has part of the organization is based here in Massachusetts, and there's about 10,000 members just here in this state.
Now, what is Campaign for Open Government?
Well, Common Cause actually does a lot of things to oversee how government operates. They work at both the state and local levels. But when you want to talk about websites, then they have a subset of their own organization called the Massachusetts Campaign for Open Government. And that is the group that looks at how open websites are and how do we work with the open meeting law and the public records law to make sure that information that should be in the public purview is actually there.
What's different now with the website versus from the past?
Well, when I first began, the websites just had some very basic information. Usually told you what the operating hours were for a department and maybe one or two phone numbers. Over time, using especially the Campaign for Open Government's criteria, the Methuen's city's website has gotten better by providing information about meetings and minutes and agendas and a lot of public information that you used to have to file a Freedom of Information request for is now available on the city website. And the same thing, as the city moved through the criteria, moving towards what Common Cause calls a gold star rating, you have to include the school system website. So Methuen has won the gold star now for 4 years straight. And part of that is because information that should be available to the public now is on the school sites. But Common Cause and the Campaign for Open Government only have a 6-point criteria. And it's a very simple criteria in that they want to know, do you have agendas for your meetings? And sometimes do you have minutes for any meeting? And do you have a charter? And is it available? And that's basically the criteria for any of this. And then if you want a gold star, they say, do you have more than one group meeting minutes and agenda posted? And what about your school website? So they kind of broaden the scope. But they just ask, is there something available? And in 2006, when they began this process, there were 351 communities in Massachusetts, and only 34 actually had even websites. Now today, that number's up to about 119. But of the 119, only about 50 qualify for gold stars.
Now, when you say gold stars, are these websites being ranked?
Yes.
How are they ranked?
Well, Common Cause actually has a criteria that they use, and what they do is a reviewer will go through and make sure that all 6 key performance records are available. And they're simple things like, is the governing body's agenda posted? In Methuen, that would be the city council. So do they post an agenda? And then, are the minutes of that body posted? And then, is the fiscal year budget information posted somewhere on a website? And Finally, do the municipality's bylaws, code, and ordinance also get posted? And then the last two criteria only apply to towns. So the first four criteria are what give us the ability to say we're ranked by Common Cause. Okay? The last two are for town meeting warrants and town meeting results, which, since we're not a town, we don't qualify for that. Then once they've ranked on those six, they'll give you credit that you now meet their criteria. Okay? But once they're done with that, then they also go on and to become a superstar, they look and ask, have you archived at least 1 year's worth of that governing body's agendas and minutes? So you can start off by putting the agenda and minutes for next week's meeting for the city council, and you'll qualify. But now, if you take a year's worth of agendas and minutes and put them on the website, now you're on the road to getting that gold star, which Methuen has for 4 years running. Then they want to know, okay, you put the municipal code up, but have you also put up the zoning bylaws? So once we do that, we start to move again towards that gold star. And then the charter or charter information. So you must post that. Now, we do that on a regular basis, so that wasn't a problem. And then they ask, what about a community calendar? So Methuen's city website actually has a calendar. You can click on it and look at any date, and it'll tell you which boards, commissions, or councils are actually meeting. And then you can click through and basically see their agendas to find out what they're going to talk about. The fifth part of the Superstar ranking is, does the school committee post their agenda and minutes? And that's basically how Common Cause moves towards bringing the school system into this. And then the agenda and minutes of at least one additional town board must be posted in order to get their gold star. So Methuen does that because they post community development agenda and minutes, and plus originally they posted the agenda and minutes for the school committee. And that's how they got the gold star. And then they stopped there. And it was at that point that I said there must be a broader measure of information that should be available to the general public. What would that be?
Now, are there any other ways to rank websites?
Well, I do a lot of research online, and so what I did is I started searching, and I found that a group called the Sam Adams Alliance, which is a nonprofit group run out of Chicago, that looks at openness and transparency across all state, municipal, county, and local government in the United States, was busy putting together that criteria. And they were going to put it up on something called a wiki. It's like Wikipedia, where anyone can go in and add information to it. And then there's a kind of a review board where, you know, you can't go in and say, I think Hector's a dope, and they'll just leave it there forever. You know, someone will look at that and say, wait a minute, there was this entire biography of Hector, and now it just says Hector's a dope. Maybe we should take that down. And so what happens is the Sam Adams Alliance created a subset called the Sunshine Review, and they allowed people to become editors of the wiki for their location. So I signed on and became the editor for the city of Methuen. And that gave me the ability to find their 10-point checklist, which they had developed for openness and transparency. And their goal is to make it so that regular people, the 40,000 people who live in Methuen, if you have a question, you should be able to go to the city or the school's website and at least 90% of the time find the answer you're looking for without making a phone call or trudging through the snow or trying to figure out, oh, who do I talk to? That's what their goal is. And so they have begun ranking all state, county, and municipalities, and they use people, local people like me, who sign up to become editors. So if you were to go to the website, the Sunshine Review's website, and go to Methuen City and say, oh, I don't like what Jack put there. I want to say somebody is a dodo. So you type in somebody's a dodo. It keeps track of what computer you wrote that from. And then it'll publish it and say, so-and-so is a dodo. And in the background, I can look and see, oh, Mr. Hector Montalvo said that. Well, a few little words will flow out of my mouth, and then I'll go in and I'll make the correction either back to the way it originally was, which I have that option, or I can even expand it to say, I agree with Mr. Montalvo. This person is a dodo, and here's the reasons why, and you can add information. So it's a way of adding more information and using all of the resources who use the web to hopefully move towards accurate information available to everyone.
I just want to remind the viewers you are watching Behind the Scenes. I am your host, Hector Montalvo. We are joined here today at our MCTV studios with Mr. Jack Burks. And for any of you viewers that may go into this website, and if you happen to run across anything that says Hector's a dope, please send us an email at the Hector Montalvo Show at yahoo.com. Mr. Burks, the Sam Adams Alliance gave Methuen negative F rating at one point.
Yes.
Has that improved?
Actually, it has as far as the school system goes. Now, I'll be honest with you, I go in this isn't a full-time job. I usually go in over my Christmas break, and I'll spend a couple of days, and it's a very simple process. I open up the website, I open up their checklist, and then I read the question and look on the website to see, can I find the answer to that? Is that information publicly available? Now, sometimes you have to drill down to find it, but you still get credit because the information's there. It doesn't ask how easy and accessible a website is. It only asks, does the city make the information available to the public? It doesn't ask how easy that is. So let's say I wanted to look at a particular record, and it took me a half an hour to find where it was on the website. I still give the website credit because the record is there. You could have found it. And so I update the record. However, you can put verbiage in of what happens. So I can actually write that, yes, the information is available, but it's an onerous task to find that information, and you have to actually go here and go there and do this and do that to get it, but it's there. So I can put in those kind of notes. And then as the city or the school changes that, I can change those notes. But I basically do it once a year. So, sorry, to get back to your original question, the city still has an F by the Sam Adams Alliance. However, the school system, when I first began this, Dr. Jean Whitten was the superintendent. And I know a lot of places had given her very poor ratings. But she put out a call for people to join a task force, which I did. And after I was on that task force, my experience with the school system was, if I asked a question, I was provided with the information I wanted, and sometimes even more. And so the school system's website actually went from an F to a D as they started to make improvements and started to post information. And as I made them more and more aware of what the criteria was for the Sam Adams Alliance. So, though a lot of people may or may not have liked their interaction with Dr. Whitten, I personally didn't have a problem with Dr. Whitten or anyone at the school system. I found them all very open, very easy to work with, and more than willing to pretty much give you whatever information you requested. And it's the same information you could have written a Freedom of Information request for. But they're much more open to just dealing with you and not dealing with the technicalities of, well, you didn't give me the right form, and which is what happens actually on the city side. I make a number of Freedom of Information requests every month just to get the basic information I need to help me make informed decisions about what's going on in our city. On the school side, I don't have to deal with all that. I can just call up the school, and I've heard from other people that they have similar circumstance. You call up the school, you ask your question, and they'll either provide you with the information then, or they'll get back to you with the information as soon as it's available.
It seems that the Methuen schools now, under our new school superintendent, Judy Scannell, that the school system is operating more open and transparent to the people. And I want to thank the superintendent for being open and transparent with all the parents of Methuen residents. How difficult of a task is it to get all this information and post it up on websites?
Well, the truth is that most of the information is available anyways to the city. In our particular circumstance, the majority of information goes to the city clerk, and she has the keys to the repository. So in some effect, all she has to do is scan that in, make it electronic. So the problem that most municipalities have is, how do I take a lot of paper documents and make them electronic? But the state has said, we want, along with the federal government, we want to move to become more paperless. What happens, though, I see, not just in Methuen, but in a lot of municipalities, that initiative hasn't driven down to them. So they're still all paper-driven. And you can see it in simple things like a lot of people who work for cities and towns don't have email addresses. And the reason is that a lot of them don't know how to use email. Now, part of that has to do with the general population, because I'm a baby boomer. So there's millions of people in my age bracket, whatever that may be, that have the problem of they're not computer literate. They don't know how to use email effectively. And so they still use paper or telephones. And that's the reason why you don't have things like internet voting. You know, things that would make life easier and less expensive for cities and towns don't occur because the population doesn't have the educational background to tackle it. Now, there's a new generation coming up, there's a new generation coming up that has those skills. And so over time, we'll see people move towards that.
Now, what's a grade C? I'm looking at this paper here, and it says a grade C, and
Yes.
it lists a couple of items. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, if you go to the Sunshine Review website for the public schools in the city of Methuen, you'll find that today they have moved from a grade of D to a grade of C. Now, I'd like to say I had something to do with it, though I didn't. However, I did have a meeting with the current superintendent, Judith Scannell, and she was very open about trying to move the school system's website into a much higher bracket. I mean, I got the impression that she'd like to be an A. There's very few A's already posted, but she wants to move towards it. But she gave me information about some of the items on this, and so I was able to update the website with things like how do they do background checks. So that information is now available on their website. And so I was able to actually give them a grade that they now have that available. Because it's really a binary grade in that you either have it or you don't. And there is a partial grade in that you kind of have some of it but not all. It's called an incomplete. But when you rank a website, it doesn't get graded by anything incomplete. You either have it or you don't. So what happened is she was able to provide that and then showed me how you're able to determine how Methuen websites are doing academically versus not just the local area, but the state and the national. So those links are available on their website. So I was able to give them another rating for academics. So as you move through the ratings, then you calculate a new grade. And so currently, Methuen's public schools have moved from a D to a C. And I see that there is even more movement happening. So my guess is that probably by next year, next Christmas, when I do this again, we'll easily be a B, which is excellent, I think. I mean, it's over and above what the city side is doing. And it's certainly, we're one of only about 5 of the 300 plus school systems in Massachusetts that have someone like me that's editing and rating them. And so we're actually far ahead of all the other Massachusetts sites on the Sunshine Review. That doesn't mean that we're way ahead of all of them, because if you're not being ranked, then I don't know what your actual number is.
So what about budgets and MCAS scores, and people can see that also?
Yes, there are links on the school website that you can click through to find the MCAS scores for all the schools in Methuen, and how they rank against other state schools, and how they rank nationally. So you can determine if the school that your child goes to, how does that stand against other schools in the district? And then how does it stand against other schools in the state? And then how is your child compared to people in California or Washington State or Texas or Arkansas or Mississippi? You can find all that by clicking through straight from their website.
How difficult of a task was it to set this up?
Well, I'm actually computer literate anyway, so for me it wasn't bad. I understand how wikis work. I've set them up myself. I'm a webmaster for other organizations in town, so I didn't have a problem with it. Most people, if you go to Sunshine Review and wanted to become an editor, they actually have how-tos. So you can click through and it'll tell you and show you, how do you set this up? How do you log in? How do you create a password? How do you do the rankings? What are you looking at? The process itself is fairly simple. You open the website, you open the checklist, you read the checklist, you look on the website, and then you say, yes, it's there, or no, it's not. And when you're done, it gives you the rank.
Now, you've been seen on addressing the city councils at city council meetings. You've been seen addressing the charter commission members, and you're involved in the school system. What does that mean for Jack Burke? Does that mean you have, do you want to see an open and transparent government, and how do we get that? How do we actually make all of this a reality?
Well, to answer your question, yes. I want to see open and transparent government. I mean, let's face it, the law already says we have access to all those records. In the old days, the only way to get them was they had to put them in a repository and allow people to come in and and read through the papers. In today's electronic society, all that should be available at the click of a mouse. So, yes, you see me speak at City Council, and a lot of times I'm speaking on one of three issues. And my key issue has always been, give me more information that's available to you so that I can understand how you make decisions, and I can make decisions based on the same information you have. It shouldn't be a secret how you make decisions. That needs to be available, and it is. So I think all of those public records should be online. They should all be accessible to any citizen in the city, because I think the more people learn how their government works, the more input they'll have into making it a better place. We all live here. We all want the best. The problem is, do you understand how things are working so that you can work within the system to try and make it better? And that's what I'm trying to do. And, you know, I have a holistic approach. It's not just, oh, I only want to talk to city council. Oh, I only need to talk to the mayor. No. The city has school systems. You need to talk with them. It has businesses. You need to talk with them. You need to provide as much information as possible so people make good decisions.
That's right. And, you know, and again, I mean, people seem to forget that government works for you, not
Yes.
the other way around. And everything should be open and transparent to you, the people who are paying the elected officials, the appointees, and so on. So, are you working with anyone in particular within the school system, school committee members, perhaps even the school superintendent, to get all of this accomplished?
Yes. Actually, I pretty much have decided that the easiest way is to always work with the school superintendent. But that's not to say that I don't work with school committee members, because sometimes there are questions that come up that are about school committee processes and procedures where you really don't want to go to the superintendent because it's not her role to figure out how the school committee works. So I have worked with some of the school committee members. Now, I haven't worked with all of them, but they've mostly been very open and transparent. When I ask a question, they try and find the information I need and will get back to me. You know, I don't have a problem with, I know a few years ago there was a process they talked about where, oh, you have to write it down and we'll vote on it twice and then we'll forward it off to where it has. That's not open and transparent. That's trying to put roadblocks in the way of information flow. But if you email or write or call any of the school committee members, it's been my experience that they will go off and get that information in a pretty expedited way and get right back to you. Now, I'll also tell you that a lot of it is the school committee doesn't want to see me at the podium beating on them about openness and transparency. And I have had people tell me that. No, you stay on the council side, Jack.
It could get pretty brutal out there, I'll tell you. So what's next? What's next moving on from here in regards to this whole entire open and transparency? What's next on it?
Well, at this point in time, I'm just going to continue doing what I've been doing. I mean, the way I look at it, I see a lot of work ahead. You know, the school system's at a C. I might be content when they were at an A. You know, I'd like to be able to say the Methuen school system on a Sunshine Review amongst all schools in the United States is an A. And what happens is the Sunshine Review will then put them on their website and say, if you want to see a great website, go to Methuen. They've got an A. And you go to that website and you'll look and you'll have an A ranking and other people will start to emulate what you do. Because at that point, you have provided all the documentation that people need to make informed decisions about their school system. I'd like to keep working on that. I'd also like the city side to start moving away from Common Cause and start to become a little more open and transparent. Start to digitize some of those records. Start to make them available to the public. Make it so that the people who live here have the information they need to make the decisions that they're really required to make. I mean, I think because you don't have information is one of the reasons why so few people actually vote.
Well, you know, we appreciate you being out there, government watchdog for the people, and making sure that things are open and transparent. Mr. Burke, we have less than 30 seconds left. I just wanted to know, is there a website people can go to look at this?
That's a great question. Sorry, I just had to get that in, Hector. Yes, there's a number of websites. I hopefully provided the website for the City of Methuen, the Sunshine Review website for the City of Methuen, and I also provided the website for the Sunshine Review for the Methuen Public Schools. And if you open it up, you'll see this same chart and also anything that was written in there about the chart, why something might be incomplete or not.
Well, we want to thank you once again for coming in. Usually you are behind the camera, making me look decent for the people out there.
Making you look great.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. And once again, you've been watching Behind the Scenes. I am your host, Hector Montalvo. Join us next time as we go behind the scenes to ask the tough questions, bring you their responses, and we let you decide. Thank you for watching.